My own father called me a worthless burden on camera, laughing with my entire family about how pathetic I was, and I had been paying his mortgage for 4 years. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you're going to want to hear how this story ends. My name is Madison, and I am 32 years old. I work as a logistics coordinator for a mid-size shipping company in Portland, Oregon. I make decent money, nothing spectacular, but enough to live comfortably. Or at least, I should have been living comfortably. Instead, I was sitting in my tiny apartment surrounded by thrift store furniture and clearance fabric curtains, staring at a video on my phone that was about to change everything. It was 9 o'clock on a Tuesday evening when my Uncle Thomas accidentally sent me the video. The message was simple: "Thought you'd want to see this from Sunday dinner." I remember thinking how nice it was that someone finally wanted to include me in the family gatherings. I pressed play. The camera was shaky, clearly filmed on someone's phone. I could see my father Robert sitting at the head of the dining table with a beer in his hand, looking relaxed and happy. My older brother Derek sat beside him, laughing at something. Aunt Caroline, Uncle Thomas, and several cousins filled the other chairs. It looked like a wonderful family dinner, the kind I had not been invited to in years. Uncle Thomas's voice came from behind the camera. "Madison's been real generous with that mortgage money. You raised a good daughter, Robert." What happened next made my blood run cold. My father snorted. Like actually snorted with derision. "Generous? She owes me. I put a roof over her head for 18 years. This is just her paying back what she took from me. Besides, she's got nothing else going on. No husband, no kids. Might as well make herself useful as our cash cow." The entire table erupted in laughter. Not polite chuckles, full belly laughs, like someone had just told the funniest joke they had ever heard. My brother Derek added, "She's always been like that, desperate to prove she matters." "It's kind of sad, honestly," Aunt Caroline chimed in. "At least she's good for something. Better than being completely useless." More laughter, more jokes at my expense. And there I was, sitting alone in my apartment, watching my entire family mock me while eating food probably paid for with my money. I stopped the video. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. Let me back up and explain how I got here. Because this story, this betrayal, it didn't start that Tuesday night. It started 4 years earlier when my father called me crying. "I need your help, baby girl. I'm going to lose the house." My father had raised me and my brother Derek on his own after my mother passed away when I was 7 years old. He worked construction his entire life, breaking his back to provide for us. When he retired 5 years ago, his savings were practically non-existent. He had the house, the same house we grew up in, but the mortgage was still substantial. "I'll lose everything, Madison. Everything your mother and I built together." What was I supposed to do? Say no? This was my father, the man who had sacrificed everything for us. The man who worked double shifts, so Derek and I could have school supplies and Christmas presents. The man who sat by my bedside when I had pneumonia at age 9, reading to me for hours. So I said yes. "I will help you, Dad. We will figure this out together." That was 4 years ago. Every single month since then, I had been sending him $2,000, sometimes more if he called saying there was an emergency, a broken water heater, car repairs, medical bills. I never questioned it. I never asked for proof. I just sent the money because that is what good daughters do. $96,000. That is how much I had sent him over 4 years. Nearly $100,000 to a man who apparently saw me as nothing more than a convenient ATM machine. The worst part was not even the words themselves. It was the casualness of it all. They were sitting around eating dinner, drinking wine, enjoying themselves, and I was the entertainment, the joke, the punchline, and nobody had thought to invite me. I sat there in my apartment for a long time. The video was paused on my father's smirking face. Part of me wanted to call him immediately, to scream and demand answers. But another part of me, the part that had learned to be careful and calculated from years of being overlooked, told me to wait. The next mortgage payment was due in 2 weeks. I did not sleep that night. I lay in bed replaying the video over and over, memorizing every word, every laugh, every dismissive gesture, and with each replay, something inside me shifted. The dutiful daughter, the one who always put family first, who always tried to prove her worth, that version of Madison started to die. In her place, something colder and more calculated emerged. By morning, I had a plan. I went to work that Wednesday like nothing had happened. I smiled at my coworkers. I completed my tasks efficiently. I ate lunch at my desk while researching Oregon foreclosure laws on my personal laptop. I learned that if you miss 3 mortgage payments, the bank can begin foreclosure proceedings. I learned about timelines and notices and legal processes. I learned exactly how long it would take for my father's world to crumble. That evening, I logged into my bank account and set up a new savings account. I transferred the $2,000 I had been about to send to my father. Then I did something I had never done before. I ordered takeout from a nice restaurant. Not fast food, not meal prep, actual good food. I ate it slowly, savoring every bite, sitting on my thrift store couch in my tiny apartment, and I felt nothing. No guilt, no sadness, just cold, calculating clarity. My phone rang. It was my father. "Hey, baby girl, just checking in. How are you doing?" "I am fine, Dad. Just working hard as always." "That's my girl, always so responsible." "Say, I was thinking, the payment is coming up soon and I wanted to make sure everything was on track. You know how the bank is about timing." "Oh, absolutely, Dad. Everything is on track. Do not worry about a thing." "You're such a good daughter, Madison. Your mother would be so proud of you." "I hope so, Dad. I really hope so." We talked for a few more minutes about nothing important. The weather, his golf game, Derek's latest job, normal father-daughter conversation. When we hung up, I looked at my phone and felt absolutely nothing. The first mortgage payment came and went. I did not send the money. My father did not call. I assumed he thought I had simply forgotten or that there was a delay. He would realize soon enough. Instead, I took that $2,000 and bought myself new furniture. Not from a thrift store, not secondhand, brand new furniture from an actual store. A comfortable couch, a real dining table, curtains that actually matched. For the first time in 4 years, my apartment felt like a home instead of a temporary holding place. The second month came. Still no payment. This time my father called. "Hey, sweetie, I hate to bother you, but I noticed the mortgage payment did not go through last month, and this month's is coming up. Is everything okay?" "Oh, Dad, I am so sorry. Work has been absolutely crazy. Let me check my account." I put him on speaker and made typing sounds on my keyboard. That is strange. It looks like the transfers did go through on my end. Maybe there is an issue with the bank? You should probably call them." "Are you sure? Because I have not received anything." "Positive, Dad. I have the confirmation numbers right here. Definitely call the bank. You know how they can be with processing times." There was a pause. I could practically hear him thinking, trying to figure out if I was lying or if there really was a banking error. "Okay, I will do that. Thanks, baby girl." "No problem, Dad. Talk soon." I knew he would not call the bank, because there was nothing to find. But it bought me time. It made him question the situation instead of questioning me, and that was exactly what I needed. Month 3 arrived. By now, the bank had sent him official notices, foreclosure warnings, legal documents. He could not ignore it anymore. He called me in a panic. His voice was different this time, higher pitched, desperate. "Madison, I need to talk to you right now. The bank is saying I am 3 months behind on the mortgage. They are threatening foreclosure. What is going on?" I let the silence stretch. Let him sit with his panic for a moment. "Dad, I stopped paying your mortgage 3 months ago." "What? Why would you do that?" "Madison, this is my house, our home. You cannot just stop paying." "Actually, I can. It was never my responsibility in the first place. I was helping you out of the goodness of my heart, but things have changed." "Changed? What are you talking about?" "Madison, I need that money. I need it now or I am going to lose everything." I took a deep breath. This was the moment I had been waiting for. "Tell me, Dodd, am I still your cash cow?" The line went completely silent. Not the kind of silence where someone is thinking of what to say. The kind of silence where someone realizes they have been caught. "What did you say?" "Uncle Thomas accidentally sent me a video from Sunday dinner. The one where you called me a worthless burden who is only good for paying your bills. Where you and Derek and Aunt Caroline all laughed about how pathetic I am. Ring any bells?" I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end. "Madison, listen, that was just talk. We did not mean anything by it. You know how family dinners get. People joke around." "Joke around? You called me worthless. You said I owed you for raising me. You said I had nothing going on in my life. No husband, no kids. You laughed about me having no purpose except to be your personal ATM. The entire family sat there eating dinner, probably paid for with my money, and made me the punchline of your evening entertainment. We were just blowing off steam. You know we love you." "Love me? Is that what you call it?" "Dad, for 4 years, I sent you $2,000 every single month. That is $96,000, almost $100,000. I lived in a tiny apartment with secondhand furniture. I shopped at thrift stores. I ate ramen for dinner half the time. I gave up vacations, new clothes, savings for my own future, all because I was making sure you could keep your house. And you repaid me by calling me your cash cow." "Madison, please. I am sorry. We all are. It will not happen again. Just please, Send the mortgage payment. We can talk about this after. No. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. I am not sending you another dime. Not now. Not ever. You want to keep your house? Figure it out yourself. You are a grown man. You should not need your daughter to support you. Especially not a daughter you think is worthless. Madison, do not do this. Think about your mother. Think about what she would want. Do not you dare bring Mom into this. Mom would be ashamed of you. She would be disgusted by how you treated me. And as for family, you made it very clear at that dinner that I am not really part of this family. I am just the ATM you visit when you need cash. I hung up. My hands were shaking again. But this time from adrenaline, not hurt. I had done it. I had finally stood up for myself. I had finally said no. My phone immediately started ringing again. My father. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Text messages started pouring in. First from him, then from Derek, then from Aunt Caroline, then from Uncle Thomas. Please call me back. We need to talk. You are being ridiculous. It was just a joke. How can you do this to your own father? You are destroying this family. I turned my phone to silent and poured myself a glass of wine. The good stuff, not the cheap box wine I usually bought. Actual nice wine from a bottle with a real cork. I sat on my new couch in my redecorated apartment, and I felt free for the first time in 4 years. That weekend, I drove out to a coffee shop in a different part of town, somewhere I knew none of my family would be. I sat down with my laptop and created a Facebook post. I made it public, completely public. Anyone could see it. I wrote out everything. The 4 years of payments, the $96,000, the video Uncle Thomas had accidentally sent me. I described my father's words in detail. The laughter, the mockery, the casual cruelty. I explained how I had been living frugally for years, sacrificing my own comfort to help him, only to discover I was nothing more than a joke to him. Then I did something I had been debating for days. I uploaded a 20-second clip from the video, just enough to show my father saying the words cash cow and worthless burden, just enough to show the table laughing, just enough to prove I was not making this up. I wrote at the bottom, "This is what family loyalty gets you. I am done being used, I am done being the punchline, and I am definitely done paying for people who do not respect me." I hovered my cursor over the post button for several minutes. This was it. Once I clicked it, there was no going back. This would explode. This would destroy my father's reputation in the community. This would tear apart whatever was left of our family relationships. I clicked post. Within an hour, the comments started rolling in. Friends from high school, former coworkers, distant relatives, neighbors, even complete strangers who had been tagged by friends. The support was overwhelming. "Oh my God, I had no idea you were going through this. Your father should be ashamed of himself. You are so brave for speaking out. I always thought your family was so close. This is heartbreaking. Good for you for standing up for yourself. Family does not get a free pass to treat you like garbage." People shared the post. It spread across Portland's community groups. Someone recognized my father and tagged him. Someone else tagged Derek. Someone tagged Aunt Caroline. The post went from 100 views to 1,000 to 5,000 to 10,000. My phone exploded with notifications. But this time they were different. These were not angry family members demanding I fix things. These were people offering support, sharing their own stories of family exploitation, thanking me for being brave enough to speak out. My father called me 17 times in 2 hours. I did not answer. Derek sent me a message that simply said, "You have destroyed everything. Hope you are happy." Aunt Caroline left a voicemail calling me selfish and ungrateful and a disgrace to the family name. But I also got a message from my cousin Sophie, someone I had not talked to in years. "Thank you for posting this. I have been dealing with something similar with my own parents. I thought I was alone. I thought I was crazy for feeling used. Seeing your story gave me the courage to set boundaries. You are not the bad person here." That message meant more to me than any of the angry ones. The post continued to spread. Local news picked it up, not with my name, but as a story about family financial exploitation. A reporter reached out asking if I would be willing to be interviewed. I declined, but the story ran anyway. The angle was about adult children being pressured into supporting parents who mistreat them. My father's friends started distancing themselves. People who had known him for decades suddenly stopped returning his calls. The men he played golf with every Tuesday stopped inviting him. His church community, where he had attended for 20 years, started treating him differently. The foreclosure process moved forward. The bank sent official notices. My father tried everything. He called me begging, his voice breaking. He sent Derek to my apartment building to try to talk sense into me. I refused to let him in. He had Aunt Caroline write me long emails about family loyalty and forgiveness and how I was going to regret this for the rest of my life. I ignored all of it. My father tried to refinance, but his credit was terrible. He tried to get a personal loan, but without proof of stable income, no bank would touch him. He even tried to sell some possessions, furniture, and old tools and his golf clubs, but it was not nearly enough to cover 3 months of missed payments plus the ongoing monthly amount. Derek stepped in briefly, sending one payment, but he could not sustain it. He had his own family to support and his own financial problems. The payment bought my father 1 extra month, but that was all. 2 months after I stopped paying, the bank began official foreclosure proceedings. My father had 30 days to come up with the full amount, owed or lose the house. He did not have it. He could not get it. There was no miracle salvation coming. The house went into foreclosure. My family was furious. Derek called me screaming. His voice was raw with anger. How could you do this to your own father? He raised you. He gave you everything. He worked his fingers to the bone for you. And this is how you repay him? He gave me everything? Derek, I have given him $96,000. He called me worthless. He said I was only good for paying his bills. And you laughed. You sat there at that dinner table and laughed while he mocked me. While he reduced my entire existence to being a source of money. That was different. How? How was that different? It just was. Family talks like that sometimes. You are supposed to be tough enough to handle it. You are supposed to understand it is not serious. I am tough enough to handle it, Derek. I am just not stupid enough to keep paying for the privilege of being insulted. I am not naive enough to keep sacrificing my own life for people who see me as nothing more than an ATM. You are going to regret this. When Dad loses that house, when he has nowhere to go, that is going to be on you. That guilt is going to eat you alive. You know what, Derek? I have been carrying guilt my entire life. Guilt for not being good enough. Guilt for not being the son Dad wanted. Guilt for not living up to some impossible standard. I am done with guilt. If Dad loses his house, that is on him. He is an adult. He made his choices. Derek hung up on me. Aunt Caroline was next. She showed up at my work, somehow getting past the front desk. She cornered me in the parking lot as I was leaving for the day. You selfish little brat. Do you have any idea what you have done? Your father is losing everything. Everything your mother worked for. Everything she wanted for this family. And you are destroying it over hurt feelings? Hurt feelings? Aunt Caroline, he called me worthless. He laughed about me having no life, no purpose beyond sending him money. How is that just hurt feelings? Oh, grow up, Madison. Everyone talks about their family members behind their backs. It is normal. You are just too sensitive, too weak to handle the truth. The truth? What truth? That I am only valuable when I am useful? That my worth is measured by how much money I can provide? That I deserve to be mocked for sacrificing my own comfort to help my father? You owed him that help. He raised you. Parents do not owe their children anything beyond 18 years. After that, it is the children's responsibility to pay back what they took. I did not take anything, Aunt Caroline. I was a child. He chose to have children. He chose to raise us. I do not owe him a lifetime of financial support for doing the bare minimum of feeding and housing me. You are going to hell for this. You know that, right? God sees what you are doing. Abandoning your father in his time of need. You are going to pay for this. If God is real, and if he thinks I am wrong for refusing to be exploited, then I will take my chances. Aunt Caroline stormed off, but not before she told me I was dead to the family, that none of them would ever speak to me again, that I would die alone and unloved, and it would be what I deserved. I went home that night and cried. Not because I regretted my decision, but because it hurt. It hurt to realize that my family saw me this way. It hurt to know that 4 years of sacrifice meant nothing. It hurt to understand that I had never really mattered to them as a person, only as a resource. But underneath the hurt there was also relief. A strange, unexpected relief. Because I was finally free. Free from the obligation. Free from the expectations. Free from constantly trying to prove my worth to people who would never see it. What I did not know at the time was that my public post had started something bigger. Other people in my father's life began coming forward with their own stories. People he had borrowed money from and never repaid. People he had made promises to and broken. People who had seen him treat others poorly but had stayed silent. One of those people was my best friend Rachel. We had been friends since college, and she had always been supportive of my decision to help my father. But after my post went public, she called me. Madison, I need to tell you something. And you are probably going to be angry that I did not tell you sooner. What is it? Your father. About 2 years ago, he asked me for a loan. $5,000. He said it was for emergency medical bills. He said you did not know and he did not want to worry you. He promised he would pay me back within 6 months. Oh God, Rachel. I gave him the money. I cared about you, and I wanted to help your family. He never paid me back. Not a single dollar. And when I asked him about it, he said he would get to it when he could. Then he stopped answering my calls. I felt sick. Rachel, I am so sorry. I had no idea. Did he ever pay you back? No. I wrote it off as a loss. I did not want to damage my friendship with you by bringing it up. But seeing your post, seeing how he talked about you, I realized he has probably been doing this to multiple people. She was right. Over the next few days, more stories emerged. A neighbor he borrowed $2,000 from for a supposed roof repair. A former coworker who lent him money for car repairs. Even members of his church who had contributed to what they thought was a medical fund for him, only to discover he had used the money for a vacation. The total was staggering. My father had accumulated at least $20,000 in loans from various people over the years, none of which he had any intention of repaying. I compiled all of this information, screenshots of messages, bank statements people shared with me, testimony from person after person about how my father had manipulated them, and then I found something that changed everything. I was going through old emails, looking for documentation of my payments to him, when I stumbled across an email thread I had forgotten about. It was from 3 years ago. My father had forwarded me an email asking for advice about something, but he had forgotten to delete the previous emails in the chain. In those emails, I saw a conversation between my father and Derek. They were discussing me. She is such an easy mark, my father had written. I told her I was going to lose the house and she immediately offered to pay. I did not even have to push. She just volunteered. I knew raising her to be responsible would pay off eventually. Derek had responded, "How long do you think you can keep this going?" My father, "As long as I need to. She is desperate for approval. She will keep paying as long as I make her feel needed. It is honestly kind of pathetic how eager she is to prove herself." I stared at that email for a long time. My hands were shaking. My vision was blurry with tears. Because this proved it was not just thoughtless comments at a dinner. This was calculated. This was planned. They had discussed how to manipulate me. They had strategized about how to keep me giving them money. I was not just a cash cow. I was a mark, a target, someone they had consciously decided to exploit. I forwarded that email to myself from multiple accounts, making sure I had copies. Then I added it to my growing file of evidence. By this point, several people who had lent my father money were discussing taking legal action. They wanted their money back. They wanted accountability. I connected them with each other, helped them organize, and provided my own documentation as evidence of a pattern of behavior. One woman, a member of my father's church, had given him $4,000 2 years ago for what he claimed were urgent medical expenses. She was retired, living on a fixed income, and that money had been a significant sacrifice for her. When she found out my father had lied, she was devastated. I paid for her lawyer. Out of the money I had saved by not paying my father's mortgage, I hired an attorney to help her pursue a civil case against him. Other people joined the lawsuit. It became a class action of sorts. 7 different people he had borrowed money from. The total was $48,000. My father had no defense. The email evidence was damning. The pattern was clear. His lawyer advised him to settle, but he did not have the money. He tried to use the house as collateral, but the house was already in foreclosure. Everything fell apart for him at once. The house was sold at auction. He was ordered to repay the $48,000 to the various people he had defrauded. He was investigated by the district attorney's office for potential fraud charges related to the church donations. Derek stopped speaking to him entirely. My golden child brother, who had always defended our father, finally saw the truth. He sent me a short email. "I was wrong. You were right. I am sorry." It was not much, but it was something. I did not respond. I was not ready to forgive him yet. Maybe I never would be. Aunt Caroline continued to defend my father publicly, but even her support was half-hearted. Too many people had come forward. Too much evidence had been revealed. She could not spin this story anymore. Uncle Thomas, the one who had accidentally sent me the video that started everything, apologized profusely. He sent me a long letter explaining that he had never realized how bad things were, that he had thought the dinner conversation was just normal family ribbing. He said he felt guilty for years of staying silent when he should have spoken up. I forgave him, not because I necessarily believed him, but because I was tired of holding on to anger. I had spent so much of my life angry at myself for not being good enough. I did not want to spend the rest of my life angry at others. 6 months after I stopped paying the mortgage, I ran into my father at the grocery store. I almost did not recognize him. He looked older, thinner, worn down by life. He was pushing a cart with generic brand items, the cheapest versions of everything. He saw me. For a moment, our eyes met. I saw him consider approaching me. I saw the calculations running through his mind. Would I help him again? Would I feel sorry for him? Could he manipulate me one more time? Then he looked away. turned his cart down a different aisle, walked away without a word. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness, just a strange emptiness where he used to be. I bought my groceries, nice ones this time, and went home to my redecorated apartment. I had started therapy by then, working through years of being undervalued and overlooked, learning to set boundaries, understanding that being kind does not mean being a doormat. My therapist asked me once if I regretted my decision to stop paying, to expose everything publicly, to pursue legal action. Not for a second, I told her. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. The lawsuit against my father was settled. He was ordered to pay restitution to everyone he had defrauded. The payments would be garnished from his Social Security checks for years, probably for the rest of his life. He was living in a rundown trailer on the outskirts of town, barely scraping by. Some people thought I was cruel for pursuing the legal action. Some people thought I should have let it go, forgiven, and moved on. But I did not do this for revenge. I did it for accountability. I did it so other people could get back what was rightfully theirs. I did it so he could not continue to exploit vulnerable people. And I did it for me. For the version of me that had sat in that tiny apartment 4 years ago, sending money I could not afford to a man who saw me as nothing more than a resource. My relationship with Derek slowly improved. It took time. It took a lot of difficult conversations, but he had his own reckoning to face about his role in everything, about how he had enabled our father, about how he had laughed when I was mocked. We will never be close the way we were as kids. Too much has happened, too much trust has been broken, but we can have a civil conversation now. We can share a meal without tension. That is enough. Aunt Caroline never apologized. She sent me a Christmas card that year with a passive-aggressive note about family forgiveness. I threw it away without reading it fully. Uncle Thomas and I developed an unexpected friendship. He started checking in regularly, not because he felt obligated, but because he genuinely seemed to care. He admitted that he had always seen me as the responsible one, the one who had everything together, and he had never stopped to consider what burden that might be. Rachel remained my closest friend. She was there through all of it. The late-night phone calls, the moments of doubt, the times when I wondered if I was doing the right thing. She never wavered in her support. A year after everything exploded, I got a promotion at work. Better pay, more responsibilities, a corner office with a view. I accepted immediately. Rachel drove up to Portland to celebrate with me. We went to a nice restaurant, ordered expensive wine, allowed ourselves to enjoy the moment without guilt. To new beginnings, she toasted. To new beginnings, I echoed. As we ate, I reflected on everything that had happened, the pain, the betrayal, the exposure, the fallout. It had been brutal. It had been messy. It had been one of the hardest things I had ever done, but I had survived. More than survived. I had emerged stronger, clearer about who I was and what I deserved. 2 years after I stopped paying my father's mortgage, I sat down to write this story. Not for revenge, not for vindication, but because I wanted other people in similar situations to know they were not alone. I started a blog. Nothing fancy, just a simple website where I shared my experience. I wrote about the guilt, the manipulation, the moment I realized I was being used, the decision to stop paying, the fallout, all of it. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people reached out sharing their own stories. Adult children supporting parents who abused them. Siblings expected to sacrifice for the golden child. People being financially exploited by family members who saw them as resources rather than people. I realized my story was not unique. It was heartbreakingly common. And most people stayed silent because they felt ashamed, like they were failing some fundamental obligation of family loyalty. I started offering advice, not as a therapist or expert, but as someone who had been through it. I connected people with resources. I helped them understand their legal options. I reminded them that setting boundaries was not selfish, it was self-preservation. My father never changed. He continued to blame me for his circumstances. He told anyone who would listen that I had abandoned him, that I was a terrible daughter, that he had raised me better than this. Some people believed him, but most people, once they heard the full story, understood. He died 3 years after the foreclosure. Liver failure from years of heavy drinking. I found out through a distant relative's Facebook post. I did not attend the funeral. I had already mourned the father I thought I had. This stranger who died, bitter and alone, was not someone I knew anymore. Derek called me after the funeral. There were only 6 people there, he said. Barely anyone showed up. He wanted me to feel guilty. Maybe he wanted me to say I should have been there. Instead, I said, "That is sad. No one deserves to die alone and unloved. But the consequences of his actions are not my responsibility to fix." Derek was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You are right. I think I finally understand that. As for me, I built a life that was wholly my own. I moved to a better apartment with mountain views. I traveled to Italy and Japan and New Zealand, places I had only dreamed about when I was living frugally to pay my father's bills. I invested in myself. Therapy, hobbies, a master's degree, friendships that were reciprocal and healthy and built on mutual respect. I met someone eventually, a kind man who understood boundaries and respect, who never expected me to prove my worth, who saw me as a partner, not a resource. We got married last spring in a small ceremony with only our closest friends. Derek came. Rachel was my maid of honor. Uncle Thomas walked me down the aisle since I had no father to do it. My blog grew beyond anything I had imagined. It connected me with thousands of people who had experienced similar family trauma. I started a podcast. I wrote articles. I became a voice for people who had been taught that family loyalty meant accepting abuse. Looking back on everything, I do not feel guilt or regret. I feel freedom. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop letting people diminish you. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away from those who will never see your worth. Sometimes the strongest choice you can make is to refuse to be exploited, even when the people exploiting you are family. I told the truth, and the truth set me free. My name is Madison. I am 37 years old now, and I am no longer anyone's cash cow. If you are listening to this and you see yourself in my story, I want you to know something. You are not selfish for setting boundaries. You are not cruel for refusing to be exploited. You are not a bad child, sibling, or family member for protecting yourself. Family does not get a free pass to mistreat you. Blood relation does not excuse abuse. And love, real love, does not require you to sacrifice your own well-being, dignity, or financial security. If your family sees you as a resource rather than a person, you have every right to cut off that resource. You have every right to walk away. You have every right to choose yourself. It will not be easy. It will hurt. People will judge you. Some people will never understand. But I promise you, on the other side of that pain is freedom. On the other side of that guilt is peace. On the other side of that fear is a life that belongs entirely to you. You deserve that life. You deserve to be valued. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not what you can provide. Take it from someone who learned the hard way. The cash cow's revenge is not about making others suffer. It is about refusing to suffer anymore. It is about reclaiming your life, your worth, and your future from people who never valued them in the first place. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you find the courage to write your own ending. And if you are still paying someone else's mortgage while living in a tiny apartment with thrift store furniture, I want you to ask yourself one question. What would happen if you stopped? What would happen if you chose yourself? You might be surprised by the answer. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below telling me your thoughts. Have you ever been in a similar situation? How did you handle it? Your story might help someone else. Until next time, remember that you are worth more than what you can give. You are worth more than your utility. You are worth everything, just as you are. Take care of yourselves out there, and never let anyone make you their cash cow.